Custom domain names sounds scary when you look at what you've got to do, but actually if you break it down, it's a simple process of just 4 steps. And the page you're probably looking at right now down below goes through all of the steps in quite a lot of detail, with some extra help right at the bottom for particular places where you might buy your domain name from. So what I'm just going to do now is go through what we've got called the slide pack, which you can download from the page here. I'm just going to talk you through that presentation, which is a PDF for convenience, which is a summary of the steps. And then the page itself provides all the extra detail. So let me go ahead and open up the slide pack first of all, which you can do by clicking on the button right here. So this is a PDF, so you can download this if you want to, and then view it offline side by side when you're looking at the detail on the screen if you like. Okay, so we've only got, there's 26 slides, but most of them we zip through quite quickly, and it will go through those 4 steps. So first step, let's have a look at those first steps. The first step, you buy your domain name. Now the reason why I don't do it through T4s is so that you retain ownership of it. It's yours, it's independent to t4s.site, it's yours forever, and there's no issues around legality or anything like that. It's yours, so you buy your domain name. Cheap, really, to be honest with you, these days. It doesn't really cost very much. If you're quibbling over the price of a domain name, you probably haven't got a successful sales funnel or course. So it's a few pounds, a few dollars, depending what part of the world you're in. It's not very much, and you go ahead and you buy your domain name. The second part, which is the techie zone, which is where you point your domain name at the t4s.site servers. A domain name is an English version that we can remember, www.google.com. Computers deal with numbers. So what the second part does is basically to say, here's your domain name, I want to point it at the t4s.site servers, and that's the bit we'll go through as well. The third bit is the easy bit. On t4s.site, you just say on the funnel that you want the domain name to point at, this is the domain name that's incoming, inbound, and that's the one I'm going to use. And the fourth bit is me. That's where I add what's called an SSL certificate or secure certificate. So you get the HTTPS at the start of your domain name, so the traffic is secured between the person browsing and the website, and also things like Google give you an extra couple of tick points for being secure as well. So that's the bit that I do, and then I tell you it's done, and jobs are good, and off we go. Okay, so let's have a look at step 1, buy your domain name. Now in the screenshots that I've used on the tutorial page for t4s.site, I'm using a company called 123reg. I'm not affiliated, but it's just the screenshots I've used. You can buy a domain name from anybody you want. The only thing I suggest is you use a reputable one, but you can find them dead easy by going to Google and typing in buy domain name, and lots of popular ones will come up. Particularly the ones that are showing adverts are probably be the big boys, which are probably worth sticking with. The only thing you need to be able to do is edit something called DNS settings. This is the techie part in number 2. Any decent company where you buy your domain name will let you do that, but you could check first before you spend your hard-earned cash. So I go ahead to the website here, in this case 123reg, I do a search, I find funnelhackerspro.com, which is the example one I've used in the tutorial page, because it ties in with the Funnel Hackers Pro Facebook group that we use on Facebook. It's available. I click on add to basket, and then I click on checkout to buy it. Now 123reg then add on something called domain ownership protection. I don't want that, so I click on the trash can and get rid of it. When you're buying from whatever company you're buying from, just keep an eye out for any optional extras. You may want them, in which case buy them. You may not want them, in which case make sure they're not been added on by default. Okay, that's it. You've then bought your domain name. You are the proud owner of www.whatever.com. For the techies out there, I know www isn't part of the domain name, so I bought funnelhackerspro.com. I now own that as a domain name. So that's step 1 done. Step 2, the techie bit, configure your domain name. Okay, so this is where you've got to pay attention if you're not technically minded, because this might blow your brain a little bit, but don't worry, it's not as bad as it seems if you follow it through. On t4s.site/tutorials, you can click on custom domain name, this page you're probably looking at now. We break it right down to the exact steps that you need to do. But in summary, depending on the company that you bought your domain name, you'll probably have a control panel of sorts, or an admin dashboard, or they'll call it some maybe fancy name. What you're looking for on there is where to configure your DNS settings. If you can't find them, the company you bought the domain name from will help you out. Log a ticket or open a support chat, whatever, they'll gladly help you out. That's what they do, that's their business. They will gladly help you out, so ask them for help, okay? But, you know, if you can see it, super. In my case, on my screen, I get here with a link to manage DNS. That's what I'm looking for. And I click on that, and it gives me another screen with some basic settings. Now, the second part of DNS settings is something called the A record. The A record of your DNS settings is the bit that points your domain to t4s.site website. This is where you might lose it. Take a breath, cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever you want. Absolutely fine. This is a brand new domain name, remember? So you can't mess anything up. We can always put it all back again. You can always reach out to your hosting company of your domain and ask them to reset it. You can't make a mess. If it's an existing domain and it's already in use, you may want to just read through the process first, maybe reach out to your domain hosting company and ask them for help. They may even do it for you. But here I'm going to click on the advanced settings so I can get to what's called the A record. And as I say, the A record is literally a note on your domain which says point this domain, funnelhackerspro.com, at t4s.site. t4s.site, the web server here, it lives in a world of numbers because it's computers. So your domain name, your A record of your domain name, will have some numbers which says that computer over there is where I want it to go, and it's called an IP address, and it will be something at the moment. Once you've got to this screen on your own domain hosting company, you'll have something that looks a bit like what we've got on the screen here with an existing IP address for a couple of records. You don't even need to know what these records mean as long as they've got this A beside them. And they won't be 123.123.123.123. It will be something. You're going to edit those and change them to this value here, 185.123.98.134, dot being the full stop, the period on your keyboard. So you edit those and save them, and then this A record here has been changed to this destination target's IP address. You're literally saying this domain name, point over there to the t4s.site web service, which is that 185.123.98.134 address. So it's a signpost. If you have any other, I'll do the bunny ears, A records, like 4As is a good example of one. You don't need to worry about what they do, but you can just delete them, remove them. So you're just left with A records with these 4 numbers separated by a dot. Okay, now what that does then is that tells your domain hosting company to make the change. The internet, which is a big old thing, doesn't get updated automatically. All the computers on the internet have to tell each other of all these changes that you and everybody else is making to update the whole of the internet around the globe. This is called propagation. So when you make that change and save it, propagation begins and the whole of the internet gets updated with your change. There is a website called dnschecker.org where you can enter your domain name, and it will show you this column down the center of the screen. It will show you what it's currently set at as far as the internet is concerned. You want to make sure that they all have been changed to your the new value you've entered. This takes officially up to 48 hours, and therefore I say to you, wait 48 hours. During 48 hours, it will update. It may take a lot less. It certainly won't be instant, but it may take a lot less. But please wait 48 hours before progressing any further. Just be patient. Go to bed a couple of times. Okay? And you let that happen. You just forget all about it for a couple of days, 48 hours, and let it go. After 48 hours, if you go to this website and check, you'll find that they've all been updated to this new value. And at that point, that's the techie stuff over. You've pointed your domain name by changing those A records to the t4s.site web server. So anybody who types in www.yourname.com will now be redirected to the t4s.site servers. Okay, and that's the techie stuff. Follow the steps. You don't even have to understand it. If you want to understand it more, by all means reach out, but that's basically what you're doing, is changing those values, and that's the technical bit over with it. I can do it for you. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'm just letting you know that I can do it for you. There is a fee, but it's something you can do yourself. You don't need to pay me for it. You can do it yourself, but I've been criticised before by not mentioning it, so I'm just mentioning it and putting it out there. Okay, so you bought the domain name. You repointed it to the t4s.site web servers. Well done. We now do the easy bits. Because step number 3 is where you associate your funnel or your course, depending on what you're building with t4s.site, with the incoming domain name. It's so easy. You go to your funnel manager of the funnel or course that you want the domain name to work with. You click on Edit Funnel at the bottom of the screen, then Advanced, and then in the bottom right hand corner there's a big box where you can fill in your domain name. What you put in there can be either, in my example, funnelhackerspro.com, or it could be www.funnelhackerspro.com. It's your choice. Both will work, but what do you want to share on social media? What do you want people to type in? What will you use on your Facebook ads? Whatever you might do. If you're going to drop the www dot at the start, don't include it. If you want people to type it in, include it. Both will work. It's just you want to put the main version in there, if you like, just to reduce the number of hops that are going on in technical terms. So both will work, but put your preferred version in there. Personally, I don't type in www.google.com. I can't type in google.com or bbc.co.uk. But you may prefer the www because you may prefer it. The choice is entirely yours. Anyway, close that box and save it. That's step 3 done. And then finally, we have to do step 4, which is my bit, which is where I add a SSL certificate, which means it's secured, which means it's HTTPS, which means you get the padlock in your browser, and some other little bits and pieces that I do, which I won't even bore you with. So, what do you need to do to tell me that you've done all of the stuff beforehand and you're ready to go live? First of all, you need to wait those 48 hours at the end of step 2. Please don't come before 48 hours. If we try and do things too soon, we actually get in a bit of muddle and it may take longer. So it's in your interest and my interest for you to wait 48 hours before you start this step after finishing step 2. Please. Having done that, what you need is to tell me the ID of your funnel or your course, which is in your funnel manager screen top left in brackets. So here's 1068. And then go to t4s.site/help and log a ticket. You may need to register if it's the first time you've used that site, but having done so, you can then log a ticket via the help desk and tell me that you're ready to complete the setup of your custom domain name. In the ticket you put, you can call the support ticket custom domain, put in the funnel ID that you've just got, the domain name that you've registered, and confirm you've waited 48 hours. And please do wait 48 hours. When you're submitting the ticket, there's a tick box which you can tick to get an email for when I reply. You can just go back and check it manually, but it's in your interest to tick that, so you'll get an email when I reply saying all's good, we're ready to go live. And that's it. Now again, remember that propagation when you did your changes. When I do my changes, it may take up to 48 hours. If it takes less, I will tell you so you don't have to wait necessarily 48 hours, but it may take up to 48 hours because that's the officially recommended amount of time that these things take. However, if we see it up and running before 48 hours, you'll be the first to know. You may even see it working yourself before I get to tell you. And that's it. That's it, okay? So, they're the 4 steps. Number 2, the second step, that's the techie bit. As you can see on this page here, I go through here and put in a lot more detail and words about what's going on, so you've got some background. How you buy your domain name, I literally walk through the process that I took for real for the funnelhackerspro.com funnel that I set up with a custom domain name. Step 2 here is a technical version. Again, lots of screenshots and a lot more narrative about what's going on and what A records are and so on. It's all on there. Step 3, the easy bit where you associate your funnel or course with a domain name. And step 4, a reminder of how to log a ticket and tell me. Big old green button there to open a support ticket. A little note there about the 48 hours. And at the bottom here, depending on the company that you register your domain name with, it may be somebody with their own control panel, like 123reg. They have an admin dashboard, they might call it some fancy name. You may be using a company called Cloudflare. If you're not, don't worry. You may be using something called cPanel. Companies like SiteGround use those. Again, there's a breakdown of all of the steps there to do it on that, so a lot of background there. But do remember, when you buy a domain name from a company, you're also paying for their support. That's what they do as a business. They'll be more than happy for you to help out if you reach out to them. So please do that. If you get stuck at all, then go to our Facebook group, Funnel Hackers Pro. URL's on the screen, and you can pop a post on there, and I or somebody else will be more than happy to help you out as well. So there's nothing stopping you doing a custom domain name. Take it through step by step, particularly the second step at a time. If it's a new domain name, you can't break anything, so give it a go, give it a whirl, and get your custom domain name up and running.